Captain Han-Sol Kim stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Indomitable, watching the massive alien station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humans had ever built. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its surface covered in flowing patterns that seemed to pulse with their own light. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission," reported Communications Officer Ji-Hoon Park. "Same as before. They want us to dock at Bay 47 and wait for an escort." Han-Sol nodded. 3 months ago, Earth had received its first message from space. Not from humans, but from something calling itself the Velthari hegemony. The message was simple. Primitive species detected. Report to Nexus Prime for evaluation and classification. The words had caused chaos on Earth. Some wanted to ignore the message. Others wanted to hide. But President Lee had made the decision that would define humanity's future. They would go and meet these aliens as equals. Dr. So-Jin Park stood beside the captain, her recording equipment hidden in what looked like a simple tablet. She was Earth's best scientist when it came to studying alien technology, though until now, there hadn't been any alien technology to study. "Remember," Han-Sol said quietly to his crew, "we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm, stay alert, and follow my lead." The Indomitable was humanity's newest and most advanced ship, but Han-Sol knew it would look like a primitive toy compared to what they were about to see. Its nuclear engines and steel hull were the best Earth could build, but the aliens had traveled between stars for thousands of years. As their ship docked, Han-Sol could see alien vessels through the station's transparent walls. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship seemed to be made of pure energy, their hulls glowing with soft light. Some were as large as cities, others sleek and fast like metal sharks. "Humans," came a voice through the ship's speakers. The translation was perfect, which made Han-Sol wonder how long the aliens had been watching Earth. "Exit your vessel and follow the guide lights. Bring no weapons. Bring no recording devices." So-Jin Park smiled slightly and patted her tablet. The aliens didn't understand human technology well enough to know what could record and what couldn't. The airlock opened, and Han-Sol led his small team into the station. The gravity felt normal and the air was breathable, though it smelled strange, like ozone after a lightning storm. The guide lights led them through corridors that defied understanding. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at, and the ceiling seemed to stretch into infinity. Other beings walked past them, creatures that looked like they were made of living crystal, others that floated without touching the ground. Finally, they reached a vast chamber where a creature waited for them behind a desk that seemed to grow from the floor itself. The being was tall and thin, with skin that changed color like oil on water. Its eyes were large and completely black. "I am Ambassador Thexian Moore of the Velthari hegemony," the creature said. Its mouth didn't move, but somehow the words appeared in their minds. "You are the representatives of the species called humans." "I am Captain Han-Sol Kim of the Earth Defense Force," Han-Sol replied. "We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples." The ambassador's skin shifted to what might have been amusement. Peace. Friendship. How primitive. It gestured to holographic displays that appeared in the air. "We have observed your species for some time. You fight wars with chemical explosives. You travel space using controlled nuclear explosions. You communicate with electromagnetic waves." More displays showed Earth's technology, but the way they were presented made everything look crude and backward. Human ships looked like metal boxes next to the flowing alien vessels. Human weapons looked like stone clubs compared to beams of pure energy. "Your species shows promise," Thexian Moore continued. "You have achieved basic space travel and nuclear technology. This qualifies you for membership in the galactic community." Han-Sol felt a moment of hope, but something in the alien's tone warned him it wouldn't be that simple. "However," the ambassador said, "your primitive nature and violent tendencies make you unsuitable for independence. The hegemony offers you protection as a client species. You will surrender all military vessels and weapons to our care. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy." "And if we refuse?" Han-Sol asked, though he already knew the answer. The ambassador's skin shifted to deep red. "Then you will be classified as a rogue species and dealt with accordingly. We have brought peace to 1,000 worlds, Captain Kim. Some accepted willingly. Others required persuasion." Dr. So-Jin Park stepped forward. "Might we see examples of your technology?" To better understand what protection you offer. The ambassador seemed pleased by the question. Of course, knowledge is always the first step toward acceptance. What followed was a demonstration that both amazed and terrified the human delegation. The aliens showed weapons that could crack planets, shields that turned matter into energy, ships that could cross the galaxy in days. But Sojin Park was recording everything, her trained eye catching details that the aliens didn't think to hide. She noticed that everything ran on energy. Pure clean energy that flowed through crystalline conduits. There were no backup systems, no redundancy. If the energy flow was interrupted, the system simply stopped working. Impressive, Hansol said when the demonstration ended. We will need time to discuss your offer with our government. You have one solar rotation, Thexian Moore said. That should be sufficient for a primitive species to make a simple decision. As they returned to their ship, Sojin Park was already analyzing what she had seen. The aliens were incredibly advanced, but their technology had a fatal flaw. They had forgotten that sometimes simple solutions were better than complex ones. What do you think? Hansol asked as the Indomitable left the station. I think, Sojin Park said, they're about to learn why humans survived when the dinosaurs didn't. We adapt. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. By the time they arrived, Sojin Park had filled dozens of reports with her observations. The aliens were powerful, but they thought in patterns. They expected other species to fight like they did, with energy weapons and advanced technology. They had never faced an enemy that would use rocks if that's what it took to win. Hansol delivered his report to President Lee and the Earth Defense Council. The decision was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. If the aliens wanted a fight, humanity would give them one they would never forget. The Velthari had dismissed humans as primitive. Soon they would learn that primitive didn't mean weak. It meant adaptable. It meant dangerous, and it meant humanity would never kneel. 3 months after the meeting at Nexus Prime, the sky above Earth filled with alien ships. Admiral Taehyun Lee stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the massive fleet appear on the screens. 200 Velthari vessels hung in space like glowing jewels, each one larger than Earth's biggest battleship. Sir, reported Lieutenant Young-Soo Kim, they're broadcasting on all frequencies, every radio, every television, every communication device on Earth and the colonies is receiving the same message. The main screen flickered, and Ambassador Thexian Moore appeared. The alien looked exactly the same as 3 months ago, but now there was no pretense of politeness. Humans of Earth, the ambassador's voice filled the command center. You have had time to consider our generous offer. The Velthari hegemony has come to collect your answer. You will surrender all military assets immediately and accept client species status. You have 72 of your hours to comply. The image changed to show the asteroid mining station at Ceres. The facility housed 3,000 workers and their families, mining ice and rare metals for Earth's growing space program. To demonstrate the futility of resistance, Thexian Moore continued, observe. A single beam of blue light reached out from one of the alien ships. It touched the mining station for less than a second. Ceres exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth's surface. 3,000 people vanished in an instant. Comply or face the same fate. This is our final offer. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Admiral Lee felt sick. He had known war was coming, but seeing it start with the murder of innocent people made it real in a way that reports and planning sessions never could. Sir, Lieutenant Kim said quietly, we're receiving messages from across the system. The colonies want to know what we're going to do. Lee activated the fleet-wide communication system. Every ship, every base, every colony would hear his words. This is Admiral Lee. 3,000 of our people just died because we refused to surrender our freedom. The aliens think this will make us afraid. They think we'll beg for mercy. He paused, letting his anger show in his voice. They're wrong. Across the solar system, Minister Jin Woo Choi was addressing the civilian population from Earth's capital. His speech was being broadcast to every human settlement from Mars to the outer colonies. My fellow humans, Minister Choi said, standing before the global assembly, today we face our greatest challenge. An alien empire wants us to surrender our freedom, our dignity, and our future. They offer us safety in exchange for slavery. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. For the first time in history, Humanity spoke with one voice. They call us primitive, Choi continued. They say our technology is crude, our weapons outdated, our ships little more than metal boxes with rockets attached. They're right about all of that. But they've made one mistake. They think primitive means weak. In her laboratory on Europa, Dr. Haijin Nam worked frantically with her team to turn Dr. Sojin Park's observations into weapons. The recordings from Nexus Prime had revealed critical information about Velthari technology. Here, she said, pointing to a holographic display showing the internal structure of an alien ship. Look at these energy conduits. Everything runs through them. No backup power, no redundant systems. They've made their technology so efficient that it's become fragile. Her assistant, Dr. Minho Bei, looked up from his calculations. If we could disrupt the energy flow even for a few seconds, their shields would fail, their weapons would stop working, and their life support would shut down, Dr. Nam finished. The question is how to do it without getting close enough for them to vaporize us. Commander Dongwu, Shin was having the same thoughts as he led a team of volunteers and modified fighters toward the edge of the alien fleet. His mission was simple. Get close enough to scan the alien ships and gather the data Dr. Nam needed, then get out alive. Remember, he told his pilots over the radio, we're not here to fight. We're gnats buzzing around elephants. We annoy them. We learn from them and we survive to fight another day. The fighters were Earth's newest models, but compared to the alien ships, they looked like toys. Their nuclear engines left bright trails as they accelerated toward the enemy fleet. The Velthari noticed them immediately. Energy beams reached out like fingers of light, destroying 2 fighters in the first seconds. But the remaining pilots scattered, using the one advantage humans had always possessed: unpredictability. While the aliens expected formation flying and coordinated attacks, the human pilots flew like maniacs. They dove between alien ships, rolled and twisted in patterns that made no tactical sense, and generally behaved like nothing the Velthari had ever encountered. Commander Shin's fighter slipped past 3 energy beams and got close enough to one alien ship to scan its hull. The readings would give Dr. Nam exactly what she needed. Data collected, he reported. All units bug out. The surviving fighters scattered in 8 different directions. The aliens, confused by the chaotic retreat, managed to destroy only 1 more before the humans escaped into the asteroid belt. Back on Earth, the response to the alien ultimatum was already taking shape. Every military base buzzed with activity. Factories that had been making civilian goods switched to producing weapons and ammunition. The Luna shipyards, which had been building cargo haulers, started welding armor plating and missile tubes onto anything that could fly. Admiral Lee received reports from across the system. Mars Base had converted its mining ships into improvised warships. The Europa colony was filling cargo containers with nuclear warheads. Even the tiny research station at Pluto was preparing to fight. Sir, his aide reported, President Lee is requesting a conference call with all fleet commanders. The holographic conference room filled with the images of humanity's military leaders. President Lee looked tired but determined. Admirals, generals, commanders, the president said, in 60 hours we're going to give our answer to the Velthari ultimatum. Minister Choi has drafted our response. Admiral Lee, would you do the honors? Admiral Lee stood and activated the transmission system that would broadcast to the alien fleet. Ambassador Thexian Moore, he said, looking directly into the camera. Humanity has considered your ultimatum. Our answer is simple: no. We will not surrender our ships, our weapons, or our freedom. We will not become your slaves. If you want to destroy us, you're welcome to try. But understand this: we are not the primitive, helpless species you think we are. We are humans. We survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We turned deserts into gardens and reached for the stars with nothing but chemical rockets and determination. He paused, letting his words sink in. You destroyed Ceres to frighten us. Instead, you've shown us exactly what we're fighting against. You want to know what human primitive technology can do? You're about to find out. This is Admiral Tae-hyun Lee of the Earth Defense Force. Bring your worst. We'll be waiting. The transmission ended. Across the solar system, every human settlement received the same message from their governments. Prepare for war. The aliens had 72 hours to realize their mistake. In 72 hours, they would learn that dismissing humans as primitive was the last mistake they would ever make. The 72 hours passed like a countdown to doom. When the deadline expired, Admiral Keksoth of the Velthari fleet expected the orbital bombardment of Earth to be routine. His ships had destroyed 1,000 worlds. This would be no different. Begin the cleansing, he ordered from his flagship. Target their military installations first, then their cities. Make it quick. The massive alien fleet moved toward Earth, their energy weapons charging with deadly light. Keksoth watched the primitive human ships scatter before his advance. Most fled toward the outer planets exactly as he expected, cowards running from superior force. But Captain Young-Ho Kang was not running. His cargo ship Iron Will was one of 50 vessels that appeared to be fleeing refugees. The ships looked helpless, packed with civilian families trying to escape the coming destruction. "Sir," reported his navigator, Ensign Hei Young-Cho, "the aliens are targeting us." "3 ships destroyed already?" "Perfect," Kang replied. "Let them think we're easy prey." The Velthari ships picked off the fleeing cargo vessels one by one, their energy beams slicing through human hulls like paper. It was exactly what Kang wanted them to do. Each refugee ship they destroyed was actually packed with nuclear charges and remote detonators. When the aliens fired their weapons, the cargo ships exploded with the force of small suns. The explosions looked like normal ship deaths to the aliens, so they kept firing. By the time they realized something was wrong, they had destroyed 30 ships and created the largest debris field in Earth's history. "Now," Kang whispered into his radio. Hidden in the wreckage of the destroyed ships, Lieutenant Subin Yoon and her squadron of stealth fighters had been waiting. The small ships were powered down, cold and invisible among the floating metal debris. "Phoenix Squadron, light them up," Subin ordered. Her fighters came alive all at once, their engines blazing as they accelerated toward the alien fleet. But these weren't ordinary fighters. Dr. Hyejin Nam had worked miracles in the past 3 days, creating weapons that could hurt the supposedly invincible aliens. The disruptor torpedoes looked like simple nuclear missiles, but they carried Dr. Nam's secret weapon, a device that could interrupt energy flow in Velthari systems. Each torpedo was a crude, primitive piece of human engineering that the alien sensors barely noticed. Subin's fighter dodged between energy beams that lit up the space around her. Her teammates spread out, each pilot flying in patterns that seemed random but were actually designed to confuse alien targeting systems. "Fox 1, Subin called as she launched her torpedo. The missile streaked toward the nearest Velthari cruiser. The alien ship's defenses tried to intercept it, but the torpedo was too simple for their advanced systems to understand. Energy beams passed right through it. When the torpedo hit, the Velthari ship's lights went out. For exactly 4 seconds, the alien vessel was powerless. Its shields failed, its weapons stopped working, and its engines died. 4 seconds was all Subin needed. "Second wave, go," she ordered. While the alien ship was helpless, 6 human fighters poured nuclear missiles into its hull. The primitive weapons tore through armor that was designed to stop energy beams. Not physical projectiles. The Velthari cruiser exploded. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out again and again. Human fighters would disable an alien ship with disruptor torpedoes, then destroy it with conventional weapons. In 30 minutes, the aliens lost 40 ships. Admiral Keksoth stared at his displays in shock. "How is this possible? They're using primitive kinetic weapons." His tactical officer, a being that looked like living crystal, flickered with confusion. "Sir, our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. These humans are using physical projectiles. Our defenses don't know how to respond, then adapt." Keksoth screamed. "Reconfigure the shields." But adaptation took time, and humans weren't giving them any. Major Seokjin-Oh had spent the last 3 months preparing for this moment. Every asteroid mining station, every research outpost, every forgotten piece of space junk in the solar system had been turned into a weapon. Titan Base. "Your go for launch," he said into his communicator. On Saturn's largest moon, what looked like a simple communications array suddenly revealed its true purpose. The dish rotated toward the alien fleet and fired a beam of pure electromagnetic energy. It wasn't a weapon exactly, but it didn't need to be. The beam overloaded every Velthari ship sensor within 1,000,000 kilometers. For 15 minutes, the aliens were blind and deaf, flying through space with no idea what was around them. That's when the real ambush began. Commander Il-sung Park had hidden his heavy cruiser Defiance inside Saturn's rings for 2 days. When the alien sensors went down, he fired every missile he had. 50 nuclear warheads streaked through space toward the confused alien fleet. The Velthari ships, flying blind, couldn't dodge or defend themselves. The missiles struck home and 12 more alien ships died. Similar attacks happened across the solar system. Every piece of human infrastructure had been turned into a weapon or a trap. The aliens found themselves fighting not just the human fleet, but the solar system itself. Admiral Kexoth tried to regain control of the battle. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. Regroup and assess enemy capabilities. But the humans weren't done. Captain Jinwoo Song and his suicide squadron had been waiting for exactly this moment. 5 human destroyers, their hulls packed with every nuclear warhead Earth could spare, accelerated toward the retreating alien fleet. For Ceres, Song shouted as his ship plowed into a Velthari battleship. The explosion lit up the solar system. When the light faded, both ships were gone, but the aliens had learned a terrible lesson. Humans would die to kill their enemies. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Velthari fleet had lost 60 ships and hundreds of thousands of crew members. The human losses were smaller but more painful. Every ship, every pilot, every life lost was irreplaceable. Admiral Lee surveyed the aftermath from Luna Base. The alien fleet was retreating beyond Jupiter, licking their wounds and trying to understand what had happened. "Status report," he ordered. "Sir," reported his aide. "We lost 18 ships and over 3,000 people. But the aliens lost 60 vessels and seemed to be in complete disarray." Lee nodded grimly. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be prepared for human tactics. But humans would be ready too. Major O was already setting up new ambush points throughout the outer system. Dr. Nam was working on improved disruptor weapons, and across Earth, factories were working around the clock to build more ships, more weapons, more ways to hurt the aliens. The Velthari had dismissed humans as primitive. Today they learned that primitive could be deadly. Tomorrow they would learn it could be unbeatable. "Get me a line to President Lee," Admiral Lee ordered. "Tell him the first round goes to humanity. But warn him, they'll be back with friends." In the depths of space, Admiral Kexoth was sending a message of his own. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Velthari hegemony was asking for help. The humans had won the first battle, but they had also made enemies of beings with the power to crack planets. The real war was about to begin. The emergency council meeting on the Velthari homeworld had never seen such chaos. For 1,000 years, the hegemony had been the dominant power in this sector of the galaxy. Now Admiral Kexoth stood before the council, his uniform torn and his pride shattered. "Explain to us again," High Counselor Velmiran said, his voice cold with disbelief. "How a primitive species destroyed 60 of our ships." Kexoth's skin shifted to deep purple, the Velthari color of shame. "They fight unlike anything we have encountered. They use kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, and suicide attacks. Our defenses were not prepared for such barbaric tactics." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. For centuries, the Velthari had brought order to the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea that primitive mammals with metal tubes could defeat them was impossible to accept. "Silence," Velmiran commanded. "The question now is how to deal with this humiliation. We cannot allow word of this defeat to spread." "Sir," Kexoth said quietly, "I recommend we contact the Zephyron Empire. They have weapons that can crack planets. These humans cannot hide from total annihilation." The council fell silent. The Zephyron were ancient allies, but they were also prideful and arrogant. Asking for their help would be admitting that the Velthari could not handle a single primitive world, but they had no choice. 3 days later, the message reached the Zephyron homeworld. War Prince Velkoran read the transmission with amusement that bordered on laughter. The Velthari, who thought themselves so advanced, had been defeated by creatures that still used chemical rockets. "Assemble the second Armada," he ordered his fleet commanders. 500 ships should be sufficient to deal with these mammals. "And bring the Worldbreakers. It is time to demonstrate proper pest control." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Mi Young-bae received the news from her spy network with grim acceptance. Hidden in a base carved deep into Pluto's ice, she watched as alien reinforcements gathered at the edge of the solar system. 500 ships, she said to her staff, including 3 Worldbreaker-class vessels. Intelligence suggests they can destroy entire planets. The command center fell silent. Earth's entire fleet numbered less than 200 ships, and most of those were converted cargo vessels and mining ships. Against the combined alien armadas, humanity seemed to have no chance. "Ma'am," asked Colonel Jae-hyun Kim, "what are our orders?" Admiral Bay looked at the tactical display showing the massive alien fleet. "We do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We adapt, we improvise, and we make them pay for every light year." Dr. Junho Ryu worked frantically in his laboratory on Titan, analyzing fragments of Zephyron technology that human spies had managed to steal. The Zephyron were even more advanced than the Veltari, but that might also be their weakness. "Look at this," he said to his assistant, Dr. Kyung-min Lee. "Their weapons are based on quantum entanglement networks. Each ship is connected to every other ship through quantum links. It makes them incredibly powerful, but," Dr. Lee prompted, "but if we could disrupt those quantum connections even for a moment, their entire fleet would lose coordination. They would go from a unified force to 500 confused individual ships." Dr. Lee studied the readings. The amount of energy needed to disrupt quantum entanglement on that scale would be enormous. "We'd need to detonate our entire nuclear arsenal at once. Or," Dr. Ryu said with a smile, "we could get them to do it for us." Meanwhile, the Zephyron fleet had arrived and was taking position alongside the remaining Velthari ships. War Prince Velkorin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galaxy's End, and surveyed the primitive solar system before him. "So these are the famous humans," he said to Admiral Keksoth, who had come aboard to brief him. "They look no different from any other carbon-based life form." "Do not underestimate them," Keksoth warned. "They are cunning and desperate. They fight without honor." Velkoron's laugh was like breaking glass. "Honor is a luxury for equals. These are pests to be exterminated. Watch and learn how the Zephyron deal with rebellious children." The combined alien fleet moved toward Earth, over 700 ships strong. Their formation was perfect, their coordination flawless. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was supposed to be, linked through quantum networks that made them move like a single organism. Admiral Bay watched them come from her command center and smiled. "Perfect," she whispered. "Absolutely perfect." She activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All units, this is Admiral Bay. Operation Desperate Gamble is now active. Every ship, every base, every human in the solar system has one job. Get the aliens to fire their big guns at the same time." Captain Haewon Cho received the order on her destroyer Last Stand. Like every human ship, hers had been modified with Dr. Ryu's latest innovation, quantum resonance amplifiers hidden throughout the hull. "You heard the Admiral?" she told her crew. "We need to make them angry enough to use their planet crackers, and we need to be alive when they do it." The human fleet spread out across the solar system in small groups, each one designed to look like a tempting target. They used every trick they had learned: false retreats, suicide runs, and ambush attacks from hidden positions. Commander In-ho Kim led his squadron in a desperate charge against the alien left flank. His ships fired every weapon they had, then broke off when the aliens responded. The attack did no real damage, but it served its purpose. It made the aliens angry. "Enough of these games," War Prince Velkoron snarled. "Prepare the world breakers. We will crack every planet in this system and be done with it." "Sir," Admiral Keksoth said, "perhaps we should be more careful. The humans have surprised us before." "No more surprises," Velkoron replied. "No more clever tactics. Just overwhelming force. All ships target every major body in this system. Fire when ready." The 3 world-breaker ships charged their planet-cracking weapons while the rest of the fleet targeted human bases throughout the solar system. In a few minutes, the combined firepower of 700 alien ships would turn the solar system into dead rock and floating debris. Admiral Bay counted down the seconds. "All ships prepare quantum resonance burst. 5 and 4, 3, 2. The alien fleet fired. Every world-breaker weapon, every energy cannon, every advanced alien weapon in the fleet discharged at exactly the same moment. The amount of energy released was beyond imagination, enough to destroy multiple planets. "Now," Admiral Bay shouted. Every human ship in the solar system activated its quantum resonance amplifier at the same instant. The devices, hidden in cargo holds and disguised as communication equipment, began to vibrate at the exact frequency of the Zephyron quantum network. For one perfect moment, the resonance matched. The quantum connections that linked every alien ship began to fluctuate, then collapse. The alien fleet's perfect coordination vanished. Ships that had been moving in formation suddenly found themselves flying blind, their quantum links severed. Weapons that had been perfectly aimed missed their targets. Commands that should have reached every ship instantly were lost in the chaos. What is happening? Velkaran screamed as his flagship shuddered. His tactical officer, a being of pure energy, flickered with panic. Sir, we've lost quantum connection with the fleet. All ships are operating independently. For the first time in their history, the Zephyron found themselves fighting as individuals instead of a unified force. And humans knew exactly how to exploit individual targets. Captain Siwoo Yoon emerged from his hiding place in Jupiter's Great Red Spot and launched every nuclear torpedo his heavy cruiser carried. Without quantum coordination, the alien ships couldn't coordinate their defenses. Commander Yejin Ko led her destroyer squadron in a knife fight among the confused alien ships, using their size against them. The massive alien vessels couldn't turn fast enough to target the small, agile human ships. Across the solar system, the battle became a series of individual fights instead of one massive engagement. And in individual fights, human creativity and desperation could overcome alien technology. The tide of war had turned again. But this time the aliens had brought enough firepower to destroy the entire solar system. The question was whether humanity could win before the aliens regained their coordination. The real battle was just beginning. Admiral Woojin Lim floated in the command center of his hidden asteroid base, watching the massive alien fleet struggle to regain coordination after the quantum disruption. The Zephyron and Velthari ships were scattered across the solar system, their perfect formation broken into confused clusters. Sir, reported Captain Sung-Ho Park, the aliens are trying to re-establish their quantum links. Intelligence estimates they'll have full coordination back within 6 hours. Lim nodded grimly. 6 hours to defeat 700 alien ships with humanity's ragtag fleet. It seemed impossible, but then everything humans had accomplished in this war had seemed impossible. Send the signal to all units, he ordered. Operation Primitive Storm is now active. Every human in the solar system knows what to do. 3 months of desperate preparation had led to this moment. While the aliens had been gathering their massive fleet, humanity had been turning their own solar system into the largest trap in galactic history. Captain Haewon Cho received the signal on her destroyer Determination and smiled grimly. Her ship looked exactly like what it was. A converted cargo hauler with missile tubes welded to its hull and armor plating bolted over vital systems. The aliens' advanced sensors saw it as primitive junk not worth their attention. That was exactly what made it dangerous. All stop, she ordered. Power down everything except life support. We're space junk now. Her ship went dark and began drifting like a dead hulk. Around the solar system, hundreds of similar vessels did the same thing. To alien sensors, they looked like debris from the earlier battles. Commander In-ho Kim was coordinating with the asteroid miners, who had volunteered for the most dangerous job in human history. For months, they had been moving rocks, positioning chunks of iron and nickel in carefully calculated orbits throughout the inner solar system. Ceres team, you are go for launch, he said into his communicator. At the former site of the mining station the aliens had destroyed, a cloud of asteroids that had been drifting for months suddenly came alive. Hidden rockets attached to each rock fired, sending thousands of tons of iron and nickel flying toward the alien fleet at incredible speeds. The Zephyron ships detected the incoming projectiles and laughed. Rocks? The primitives were throwing rocks at them? Their energy weapons reached out to vaporize the asteroids, but there were too many. For every rock they destroyed, 10 more kept coming. And these weren't random chunks of debris. They had been aimed with mathematical precision at weak points Dr. Junho Ryu had identified in alien ship designs. War Prince Velkaran watched in growing alarm as asteroids slammed into his ship's hulls. The rocks couldn't penetrate their shields, but they didn't need to. The constant impacts were overloading the shield generators, forcing them to draw more and more power from the ship's main reactors. This is impossible, he snarled. They're using Newtonian physics against us. Admiral Keksoth, floating beside him on the bridge, felt his skin shift to deep blue, the Velthari color of fear. Sir, I tried to warn you. They don't fight like any civilized species. They use whatever works. While the aliens dealt with the asteroid bombardment, Dr. Yoon-Soo Song was making final preparations for the trap's most important component. Hidden in communication satellites throughout the solar system, Quantum disruption devices waited for her signal. The earlier quantum burst had only lasted minutes, but Song had spent those months perfecting the technology. This time, the disruption would last much longer and affect a much wider area. All stations report ready, her assistant, Dr. Wan-Ho Choi, said from his position at another console. Quantum field generators are charged and standing by. Song watched the tactical display as the alien fleet slowly began to regroup. They were falling into formation exactly as human strategists had predicted. The aliens were creatures of habit, and their habits were about to kill them. "On my mark," she said, her hand hovering over the activation switch. Captain Seung-Min Yu piloted his fighter squadron through the outer edges of the alien formation, his ships powered down to minimal levels. The fighters looked like they were running from the battle, their engines barely functioning. The aliens ignored them. After all, what could a few primitive fighters do against a fleet of 700 ships? They were about to find out. "Target acquired," Yu whispered into his radio. The largest Zephyrin ship, the Galaxy's End, floated directly ahead. Its shields were down to 40% from the asteroid bombardment, and its attention was focused on the larger threats around it. Hidden in Yu's fighter was the largest nuclear warhead humanity had ever built. It wasn't sophisticated like alien weapons, just a crude fusion bomb that could level a city. But sometimes crude was exactly what you needed. "For Earth," he said, and fired his engines at full power. The Galaxy's End detected his approach at the last second, but it was too late. Yu's fighter, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, slammed into the ship's hull and detonated. The explosion lit up the solar system. When the light faded, the Galaxy's End was gone, taking War Prince Velkaran and 50,000 Zephyrin crew members with it. The alien fleet reeled in shock. Their supreme commander was dead, killed by a single primitive fighter that had sacrificed itself without hesitation. "Now," Dr. Song shouted, and activated the quantum field generators. Across the solar system, hidden devices came online and began broadcasting quantum interference on every frequency the aliens used. This time, the disruption didn't just break their coordination. It jammed their communications, blinded their sensors, and disabled their weapons targeting systems. The alien fleet was suddenly deaf, blind, and helpless. That's when Admiral Lim sprung the final part of his trap. "All ships, light them up," he ordered. Every dead human ship in the solar system came alive at once. Hundreds of converted cargo haulers, mining ships, and improvised warships revealed themselves, their weapons already aimed at alien targets. Captain Cho's destroyer fired a full spread of nuclear missiles at a Velthari cruiser. The alien ship, blinded by the quantum interference, couldn't see the attack coming until it was too late. Commander Young-Sik An led his squadron of heavy cruisers in a devastating attack on a cluster of Zephyron ships. The aliens couldn't coordinate their defenses, couldn't call for help, couldn't even see what was happening to the ships next to them. Throughout the solar system, the same scene played out again and again. Human ships that had been hiding for hours or days revealed themselves and opened fire on confused, helpless alien targets. The battle became a slaughter. Lieutenant He Jin Kang piloted her bomber through the chaos, dropping nuclear charges on alien ships that couldn't fight back. Her primitive weapons tore through shields that had been weakened by hours of asteroid bombardment. Major Tai Il-ro coordinated ground-based laser arrays on Earth's moon, using simple light-based weapons to blind alien sensors and overload their systems. Even civilian volunteers joined the fight. The crew of the mining ship Honest Work rammed their vessel into a Zephyron destroyer, their hull packed with every explosive they could find in the asteroid belt. Admiral Keksoth, watching his fleet die around him, finally understood what the humans had done. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid, every abandoned ship, every piece of space debris had been positioned and armed for this moment. "Retreat," he ordered. All ships emergency jumped to hyperspace, but even retreat was impossible. The quantum interference that blocked their weapons and sensors also disabled their faster-than-light drives. The aliens were trapped in the solar system with an enemy that seemed to have planned for every possibility. The battle raged for 12 hours. When it finally ended, over 400 alien ships had been destroyed or captured. The remainder limped away toward the outer darkness, their crews traumatized and their fleet shattered. Admiral Lim surveyed the aftermath from his command center. The cost had been enormous. Nearly half of humanity's ships were gone and thousands of brave men and women had died. But they had achieved something impossible. They had defeated the largest alien fleet in galactic history using nothing but primitive weapons and human determination. "Sir," reported Captain Park, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 alien ships. Their crews want to defect to our side," Lim nodded. Word would spread across the galaxy that the supposedly invincible Zephyron and Velthari had been destroyed by primitives with chemical rockets and nuclear bombs. Other species would take notice. Humanity was no longer the helpless prey the aliens had thought them to be. They were predators, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you dismissed humans as primitive. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned permanently. The aliens had brought their best, and humanity had broken it like a wave against a stone shore. Now it was time to show the galaxy what human wrath really looked like.